Well, soldiers with the Hawaii National Guard recently joined their Chinese counterparts for an inaugural disaster training. Tech Sergeant Andrew Jackson has more.
Hawaii National Guard search and rescue soldiers recently participated in the first ever search and rescue extraction training event between the U.S. and Chinese militaries. During the 3-day disaster management exercise, search and extraction professionals got a chance to learn from each other while working hand in hand in a simulated disaster environment. Previous engagements involved planning and tabletop strategy sessions. This is the first time rescuers from the two nations have had the chance to work together in a field environment.
We both were learning from each other, so it's been a very good learning experience for both teams.
The overall theme of this year's exercise was that natural disasters threaten all countries. These two nations have proven that they can work together during an international natural disaster to ensure the survival of as many victims as possible. This is Tech Sergeant Andrew Jackson reporting with the Hawaii National Guard.
Hundreds of top military leaders leaving their posts since President Obama took office. Why, I ask, and who is filling that void? Joining us right now is the CEO of Concerned Veterans for America, Pete Hegseth. Captain, no longer, you're still active, right, in the reserves?
In the reserves, yep.
So do you sense there's a different, is it beyond attrition when we talk about these leaders retiring?
I think it is. You know, you've seen 5 years under this commander-in-chief. He's got a different perspective on a lot of things affecting the military. He's got a perspective about what this military should look like and how it should be used. And over 5 years, you're going to see the warfighter, independent-minded types slowly sifted out, and instead, how might you put it, a little bit more your house cats that are willing to go along with this agenda that isn't necessarily in keeping usually with the way military does.
9 senior generals have lost their commands so far this year. Up to 200 other military leaders have been removed from the positions by the president in the last 5 years. A growing number of retired generals are questioning the reasons behind the removals. A few former leaders say the administration is removing military leaders who may have policy differences with Obama. What these differences are is unknown. The former generals and admirals say the president is also using dismissals to scare those who remain into complying with his policies. One former Navy SEAL is telling the press the president is removing military leaders who will not agree to disarm Americans. So far, the White House has been quiet about the moves. Officials only speak to specific replacements for infractions of military discipline.
A mysterious barge off California's Treasure Island could be a secret Google facility. Techies are unsure of what it is exactly, but say Google has a patent for this type of structure, which is powered by ocean water moving through the barge. Now, some think that the giant barge is a water-based data center that can travel up and down the coast as needed, all to provide more data storage. Others think it's a floating marketing center, kind of like a giant Apple store, promoting all of Google's cool new tech products like Google Glass, those wearable smart glasses. Unfortunately, Googling for answers yields no results.
All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore. It is Wednesday, the 6th day. November. Well, I started out this broadcast talking about the Google barges. The cover story is that they'll be used to entertain VIPs. News about the Google barges. My source is a U.S. Navy SEAL. He said weeks ago that when the barge arrives in Portland, Maine, and San Francisco, there's actually 3 barges, 1 in Portland, Maine, and 2 in San Francisco Bay, that we're very close to the real use of these barges being implemented. The real use being command and control of the foreign troops that will be deployed in the United States. So there's your heads up, ladies and gentlemen. This is my private intelligence from a confidential source that I know and trust personally. These barges are 246 feet long, 72 feet wide, 4 stories of connexes welded together and highly modified on the inside to accomplish their goals. Living quarters, command and control, high-tech communications, and so forth.
Seattle cops can monitor your every move.
They now own a piece of equipment that has tracking capabilities.
And all it takes is a cell phone in your pocket.
They can pick up any mobile device that's near a node and track its movement.
Yes, a new wireless network set up all over the city can keep a log of the last 1,000 places you have visited.
SPD says it's not being used right now, but new at 6, Cairo 7's David Ham investigated to find signs the network is already active.
You may not have noticed these white boxes mounted on poles across Seattle. You also may not know these boxes can track you through your cell phone. Back in February, Seattle police announced it bought what's called a mesh network with $2.6 million of Homeland Security money. The network has 160 wireless access points that dedicates a wireless network for emergency responses.
When we have large public gatherings, situations like in Boston, and something bad happens, the first thing we want to know is how are we using technology to capture that information.
So here's how these wireless access points could be tracking you. If you go into your phone's Wi-Fi settings, you'll see these networks named after intersections, 3rd and Union, 4th and Pike, 4th and Union. These are all on the mesh network. Every time the network sees your phone, that data can be stored. Take this woman on the phone, for example. The network is capable of storing her IP address, the type of device she's using, the app she's using, her location, and match it up to the last 1,000 places she's been.
They now own a piece of equipment that has tracking capabilities, so we think that they should be going to City Council and presenting a protocol for the whole network that says they won't be using it for surveillance purposes.
SPD said a policy is being reviewed by the city attorney's office, and the network won't be used until the city council approves the plan. And we also asked SPD why we can see these network names if it's not being used. Well, they couldn't give us an explanation. Live in Seattle, David Ham, Cairo 7, Eyewitness.